Downloading unauthorized versions of the Bible is now an offense in China. Internet users there have noticed that with other Christian books, the Bible is unavailable from online shopping websites such as Amazon China, Taobao and JD.com. According to state media, these companies face penalties for selling publications which they say adversely affect society. The move comes as Beijing is promoting a new report looking at religious life in China. The white paper on China's policies and practices on protecting freedom of religious belief says that the country has 200 million adherents to different faiths. And it promises that China will adopt policies on freedom of religious belief based on national and religious conditions to protect citizens' right to freedom of religious belief. Well, with me here in the studio is Howard Zhang, news editor with the BBC's Chinese service. Howard, good to have you with us. Let's just get back to basics if we can. Those figures, 200 million, which religions and how many of those are Christian?
I believe if you read the official white paper, they're saying 38 million of those are Protestant Christians, and then you have another 38 and another 8 million or so Catholics. So Christians, we're talking about a quarter of that. The rest, Buddhists, Taoists, and as well as Muslims.
And this is in a communist, nominally atheist state?
The atheism only applies to government officials. So in theory, if you're a member of the Communist Party, you're not supposed to believe anything but Karl Marx.
Is it possible that those figures are an underestimate? In other words, there are many more practicing underground, if you like.
Oh, definitely. Because this number is the official people who actually subscribe to the official church or the official temple or mosque. So people who actually register themselves actively as what they call the patriotic official church members. So anybody who's outside that are not registered.
Today's development about online versions of the Bible and downloading the Bible, explain that. What's that about?
So besides downloading, the ban also applies to any sales. For example, Taobao is the equivalent of eBay here. And so any online portal, so individual sales of religious books. So far, Quran is still allowed. At the last minute I checked, but I think most people, those portals have taken down Bibles sales. But you can go to physical stores to buy them, but not directly online anymore.
But why are they doing this? What's the aim of restricting access to the Bible?
Control, because I guess it's a lot more difficult to control what version of the Bible or what type of Bible they're selling. And because many of those Bibles are sold by individual religious either communities or groups or possibly individuals. And the government's aim, I think if you read the white paper closely, it's essentially everything that's sold. Fine, you can practice, but you have to obey my rules. And these are the rules. And these are my versions of events and my texts and nothing else.
Yes, because what I've read of the white paper makes constant mention of religious freedom, but it's not quite right, is it? It's religious freedom under the terms decided by the government,
Chinese Communist
Party.
Yes, and that is not only that not only applies to religion now, every aspect of life in China now, and since the recent Congress, made Xi Jinping the top president and the top leader of the entire country, and the Communist Party returning to every single aspect of people's lives now. So the past 30 years of any attempt in reform of detaching party away from state functions or from enterprises have been abolished, essentially. So the party is back into everywhere.
Howard, many thanks. Howard Zhang of the BBC's Chinese service. Well, with more on this, we're joined from Midland in Texas by Bob Fu of the China Aid Association, which campaigns on religious liberty issues. Bob, thank you for being with us here on Impact. Just on today's story about the Bible, what's your response to that?
Well, James, this is really just a part of the picture showing China under Emperor Xi has come into really a new cultural revolution. I mean, we have not seen such thing like confiscating Bibles, even burning the Christian literatures in Xinjiang. And now the Bibles is taken from the bookshelf of the e-commerce stores. And we have seen last Friday a Chinese pastor, a Chinese American pastor, was Zhang Cao, was sentenced to 7 years for purely doing some humanitarian, educational work. And this week, the Chinese Beijing government start attacking even a Christian managed kindergarten in Beijing. So this is really just showing the religious freedom in China has entered into the worst period of time that not seen since the end of the Cultural Revolution.
Really? So you think things, despite this white paper, which makes extensive use of that phrase religious freedom, you say that things are worse than ever?
Oh, it is, absolutely. Last year alone, according to our own documentation on the ground, over 220,000 Christians alone were targeted for persecution, and over 3,700 were detained.
I gather that there was another white paper about 20 years ago on this same subject, which you've been looking at. I mean, what differences have you noticed?
Oh, the key difference is there is much less tolerance even than the 20 years ago. In the last 20 years ago, in 1997, when the first white paper on religious freedom of religious belief, what they called, issued by the Chinese State Council, it is said, those gathering by the family members primarily for prayer and Bible study would be tolerated, at least would not be applied for any criminal penalty. But right now, in many, many provinces like Henan, Anhui, Zhejiang, and certainly Xinjiang, Tibet, and believers cannot even have a private prayer meeting in their own homes. And the party secretary and local cadres searched home by home and took away the cross on the wall of the believers' homes and replaced with the Chairman Xi's portrait picture. And we have seen many, over 2,000 crosses were forcibly removed from the church building, and many even churches were totally torn down.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. But thanks for being with us. That was Bob Fu of the China Aid Association there.